Welcome to the Bills Blitzkrieg podcast, providing objectionably unobjective Bills coverage to bring a swift victory to Western New York. The topic of conversation today is, should the Bills continue to pay big money for players that only contribute on special teams? But first, before we get into that hot topic, what are we drinking today? So kick us off, Jackson. What are you sipping on?
Yes, sir. As I believe, I don't know, most podcasts, most episodes, I come on drinking Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Tonight is no different. I don't really need to explain it. If you need to hear about Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, you can go listen to previous episodes. It's good stuff. It's my go-to. So yeah, honestly, that's all I got, and I'm enjoying them very much. So, Jake, what are you drinking?
Well, if there's any craft beer that even non-craft beer drinkers have drank, it's got to be the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, right? So you have to have had at least at some point in your life, if you're over 21 years of age and have at least explored some beers, you've had the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale because that's a stalwart. And it's a really easy drinking beer, too. And it's one that I know brewers love it. Like, that's the one that every brewer cites for the origination of American-style Pale Ales, American-style IPAs. Just the way they execute it is perfect. And they really innovated the use of hops in the Northeast and, well, in the United States, which led to a lot of the Northeast hops.
And a lot of people can be turned off by, IPAs, pale ales. Not so much the pale ale, but definitely the IPA. If you're not into the bitterness that comes from hops and just the overall flavor that comes from them, can be kind of turned off by that. But Sierra Nevada makes a crushable pale ale, so we'll always advocate for them.
And speaking of hops that turn people off, I am having a hop to the teat Space Monkey from Pressure Drop Brewing from downtown Buffalo, right down there in the Old First Ward, across from G. McCarthy's and right catty corner to Resurgence Brewing Company. If you're visiting Buffalo, it's a great spot to stop off. You can walk to all these places, good food, good drink, a lot of fun to be had. It's a nice beer. It's a lot more aromatic hops, not a lot of that bitterness, but you still get some booziness as well. Tastes like Mosaic. None of the brewers or any of the beer people were there when I asked, but I think Mosaic forward, very hoppy, double IPA. Very tasty.
Yeah. The Mosaic hop is, it's not as bitter, but it's got almost like a 50-50 floral and bitter taste to me. It's very it hits the tip of your tongue, which generally I feel like hops hit kind of like the back of your tongue, bitterness, depending on the variety. But, Mosaic's a great one, and I don't see it in enough beers.
Yeah, I love it. It's a very well done beer, especially for a nice local one. Pretty small scale and very good. But yeah, that's what we're sipping on. And now to what we're calling Around the League, but we're going to go outside football a little bit for this one. So how about you take the lead on this one, Backhand?
Yeah, sure. So we'll start off with it's semi-old news. This is a Sunday night. When the news had been released earlier on in the week about Tiger Woods, he was involved in a single-car accident, and he is currently in a hospital in L.A. I don't remember the name of the hospital. Reported to be in good spirits after having surgery on his right leg. It's honestly, it's hard not to feel bad for Tiger. He was kind of on the up and up over the last few years, especially after, the back surgery he just had. I think he was on his way to kind of rehabilitating himself mentally and physically to be able to play and hopefully dominate in the Masters coming up this spring. And it's just kind of sad to see. I don't know where his career will go after this accident. It certainly will not improve his golf game at all. From what I know, he's got the right leg injury, which, if you think of golf in terms of the back right leg, I don't think it's as bad as a back injury, but it's something that you're still certainly utilizing in the game of golf throughout, 18 holes, let alone a 72-hole tournament that they'll usually play in. I don't see his right leg, even though it's not used as much as something like his back, arms. I don't see it holding up. So yeah, it's moral of the story. It's just bad to see.
Yeah, I can't imagine he'd come back from I think it was dual open fractures in that right leg. When you're getting that drive from the golf swing, I'm not much of a golfer, but it's hard to see him come back and compete at the professional level anymore. And it's really hard to see because he's a trailblazer among the sport, and he quickly became a household name when he jumped on the scene. What was it, late 90s, early 2000s? You know, it was every kid wanted to be Tiger. Every dad out in the course got the clubs that Tiger got. But, you know, and those back injuries, it traces back to the back injuries. That's when he started being prescribed those pain pills, and that first incident really set him back when he was at the prime of his career. And then to see him back again just be derailed from probably establishing himself as the best golfer of all time. He's not going to get to that point where, was it Jack Nicklaus is? And then who's the other big golfer? Anyways.
Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer. And then I think there was one other guy, Ben Hogan. Ben Hogan, right? Is that his name? You know, he's been kind of trying to live up to them.
What was the deal? What was the deal, Jeff, with Woods' son? I thought I saw something in the news with them a few weeks ago. Didn't he just play a big tournament?
I don't know. I saw some Twitter stuff, but
yeah, I'm not sure as far as the tournament goes, but I mean, his son is certainly following in his footsteps. There was some stuff that went viral, I think this past summer, where they basically video matched Tiger's son and Tiger, their golf swings, and they were pretty much identical. So, you know, he's beyond a prodigy probably already at this point. So no, son's definitely out there doing his thing.
No.
Then Russell Wilson, he's been making some headlines too, huh?
Yeah. Switch over to Russell Wilson. He will potentially be playing for another team during the 2021 season. It is not confirmed yet. Apparently I've heard about some drama. I think what I saw was that Wilson exited the locker room prematurely during the game against the Arizona Cardinals, last season. This was just reported on, while all the drama is going on with Russell and the Seahawks. But we could see Russell Wilson on a different team next season, and it'll be kind of weird. You know, he's spent his entire career has existed with the Seahawks. You think about past Super Bowls with Russell, just all around great quarterback. I mean, one of the best in the league at the moment. I think would be fair to say. And so far, we're seeing trade scenarios with the Cowboys, Bears, Raiders, Saints, which all kind of make sense. He hasn't demanded a trade with Seattle, but it's looking like it could realistically happen. I would say with the case of the Bears, they need a franchise QB. Mitch Trubisky just, does not work. Has not worked with the Bears. Sad to see because I love the Bears just as a team, and they're just such a legacy team, and they just get stomped in the dirt by Green Bay and have been for years. Aaron Rodgers makes a fool out of him every year. But in order to get Wilson, Bears would need to make some trades with some high draft picks, at least first through third, and a lot of them. It would be big, yeah. But I mean, if you're willing to make that move, I think it would be worthwhile for a Russell Wilson. I mean, franchise quarterback, I think he's still got a lot of time left in the league. Mm-hmm. And Cowboys, they lost Dak to a devastating injury this past season during 2020.
Who knows where that contract situation is going to turn out? They've been on the ledge with that contract, him and Jerry Jones, for the last 2 seasons. So. Yeah,
and they could use a franchise quarterback, I guess, if they're willing to pay the price. They arguably have one of the best offenses in the league. And Wilson would, I think, probably thrive there. Ezekiel Elliott, Mari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, list goes on. I think he would do really well in Dallas as well. As much as nobody wants to see Dallas win anything for that matter. None of us were excited for seeing Dak Prescott get injured, but I don't know. Ball's up in the air. And like I said, who knows if he will do anything. He could stay in Seattle.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm the asshole. But my first reaction is, what does Russell Wilson have to complain about in Seattle? He has one of the best coaches of all time there in Pete Carroll. People want to trash Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
He's a legend. And they destroyed their whole defense to keep him around. They upended the whole Legion of Boom. They cut them all. They traded Earl Thomas. They devastated their offensive line to keep him there. They have a hard time bringing in offensive line and outside talent because of his contract. And then his style of play makes offensive line look worse. So then he goes on and he complains about the offensive line in a scheduled press conference. He schedules a press conference to bitch about his offensive line. And then he goes out and sends out this real cryptic stuff. He's like, I don't really want to be traded. But if I was traded, I'd like to go. What is that? What is
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's crazy. It's almost like he's losing his mind. And I wouldn't have expected this kind of diva stuff from Russell Wilson because he's always, at least public persona, just seems very measured, calm, a little tweetish, kind of dorky sort of guy. Mm-hmm. So it's a little, I think it's kind of shocking, and no one's really railing on him because it's like something else must be going on, maybe. But I don't know. I think he's a bit out of his depth, thinking about the grass is always greener on the wrong side of the fence. If he really wants to go to a place like Dallas, all the better for him. But,
yeah, I hear you. And I think maybe it just could be big news because it's the off season, long before the draft. But we'll see if he goes anywhere in 2021 season. And it'll be weird to see him somewhere else. But we saw Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, and could get weirder.
Yeah, I don't think the seeds are sown in too deep with this. And this is probably irreparable. I'd be more surprised if Russell Wilson's elsewhere. I think they probably just need to have a sit-down meeting with the GM and Pete Carroll and figure out what's going on and, just have that face-to-face kind of thing. Because especially in the offseason, with probably a lot of people aren't interacting with each other with the COVID-19. So I think it's just kind of one of those blips on the radar, one of those outlier kind of scenarios. Yeah,
and I don't know. I have no idea what type of offense or what type of shape the offense is in. But it makes me pine for the days of the super stacked offense that Seattle had during, their Super Bowl contender years, which have been, probably the last 5 years. But I don't know. Maybe he's thinking about going somewhere else. But anyway, so you were looking into the Bills paying exclusively for
so these special team exclusive players, and I think there's a lot of names we've liked over the years. Sonoris Perry, he wasn't with us this year. Tywan Jones, Tyler Matekovich. Big one is Andre Roberts, who's going to be probably the biggest bone of contention in this one. But I just don't think it's something that's part of the McDermott culture that he really likes. He likes to bring in these gritty, high motor guys that don't necessarily contribute a lot on the 4 downs of the football field, on the first 3 downs of the football field, but he really likes them in special teams, in the coverage units, in the return units. But we've been spending a lot of money there. And in the aftermath of COVID-19, with this salary cap situation, we're only going to have at most $188 million to work with. That's probably a luxury we really don't need. And that's the argument I made. But first, I think I posed this question out, and we actually had a pretty decent response on Twitter. So I wanted to try something new and kind of shout out what people were saying and maybe use that as a jumping off point too. I think Bill's Hot Takes, who I like to interact with quite a bit. Let me get his actual @ correctly here. I got to pull it up. All right. Burning Bills Takes. I'm sorry. @ Hot Bills Takes.
Okay. Okay. @ Burning Bills Takes. I hope you're listening.
At Hot Bills Takes. Hot Bills Takes.
Hot Bills Takes.
But-
At Hot Bills Takes.
Hot single bills.
That's right. Ladies, if you're looking for a hot bill, he's out there.
A hot single bill. You know where to find him.
They're in your area.
He really, I thought like we were on the same wavelength with him too, because he kind of just expanded on what I was really trying to say, is that we just need guys that can be multi-purpose. We can't dedicate guys that are only going to be playing 40% of special team snaps. Guys like Tyler Matekovich, he's playing 45% of snaps and getting $3.5 million. That's just too much. It's not something you can afford. That's 3 or 4 depth players you can bring in. But I mean, he said he was a little hesitant on him. So let me get his exact tweet. A good example is to get a gadget speedster that can play special teams, wide receiver, and Phil McKenzie's role all in one. He's hesitant on Matekovich. Big cap savings, yes, but he also thinks he's going to be sneaky good in a depth linebacker role. And then I went into Spot Rack, where you can kind of play around and be, pretend GM and cut people. Yeah. That linebacker depth does get really, really thin. They just don't have bodies in that linebacker room without Matekovich. So then you have to go and you have to sign some more guys. My take with him is they were avoiding him like the plague to put him out in the field. When Milano was injured, Tremaine Edmonds was hurting, they wouldn't put him on the field. They put in Tyrell Dodson over him. There was another guy they put in over top of him. So if there's people that you're going to avoid like the plague to put him on the football field on defense, probably not something you want to dedicate significant resources like Tyler Matekovich. And then later on, this was a little bit on the opposite end, not so agreeable. And just give me a minute, I got to pull it up. Sorry about that. We'll just have to edit a little bit here.
No worries.
All right, then TTP Charlie. He's the founder of the Draft Value Score and TTP Analytics. But he got into it with me a little bit, and very respectfully. But he was basically asking, why would you want to get rid of Andre Roberts? He's the best return guy in the league. Also, you said whoever you want to be replaced, these guys will have to take regular snaps. So whose snap are they taking? Twitter's tough to get the full argument out there. You're very limited on the space you can provide. But I don't think you're saying... I'm not saying that you need to bring in somebody that's going to take away snaps from a guy like Micah Hyde to play on special teams. You don't need to take away snaps from Matt Milano if we can get him back. We don't need to take snaps away from Tremaine Edmonds. You just want to get in-depth guys that you can work into rotations, that you can bring in case of injury, that you're not nervous about starting on the defense or the offense, but still coming to contribute on special teams, which is what most teams do. Most teams don't dedicate this amount of capital on specific special teams players. Thank you for both of those guys for discussing that with me today as well. But I mean, I looked at $3.7 million for Tyler Matekovich. He barely played. I think he played less than 5% of defensive snaps. Andre Roberts played less than 10% of offensive snaps. $1.5 million. Tywan Jones, 0% offensive snaps, only 45% of special teams, $1.69 million. Andre Smith, low cap hit, $458,298, but only 5% defensive snaps, 45% special teams. Total cost of all of these guys for 2020, including Boho and Bass, so we can exclude that after, but all of the special team exclusive players, $8,521,085. That's a lot of money. That's significant capital. That's 3 John Feliciano type players. That's 3 Darrell Williams type players that you can find on the waivers. High upside, low cost, veteran players that can come in a better situation in Buffalo and have close to or Pro Bowl caliber seasons. That is a bunch of undrafted free agents. That is a bunch of depth to add to the offensive line. That's a lot of depth that we still really need at linebacker and people that are going to actually play linebacker. And there's just better alternatives.
So, Jeff, quick question then on this topic is I pulled up a Washington Post article trying to find some information. I'm looking, what is the average number of plays that a special teams player would be in before they're injured versus the number of plays like an offensive or defensive player would be in before they're injured. So what I'm almost thinking to play devil's advocate on this is, is it worth having a special teams guy for the insurance policy of he's probably going to get hurt and not your go-to linebacker on a special teams play?
Well, what are the numbers? What are they injured at much high risk?
Well, a special teams player, it's saying that you'll get hurt once every 50 plays.
Oh.
And that's almost on par with running backs. So to tie those two things together, if you are a running back and you are on special teams, I'm not a statistician, but I think that would put you at would that bring you down to a 1 in 25 plays you would be injured?
Oh yeah, I mean,
if you were a running back, I'm not sure how that works. You know what I mean? If you're adding the two together, but I mean, QB's up there, 236 plays before you get hurt. Obviously, you wouldn't want to be throwing him onto your special team,
right.
But that's my question to you, I guess.
Yeah.
Is hiring someone as a special teams player an insurance policy in protecting your players? And I guess it really matters on what position they're playing to begin with.
Yeah, that's the factor I didn't really give fair consideration to, is that when you have guys that are your main special teams guys that you send out there quite often, that you don't even need for regular reps, they are taking a lot of burden off of your depth players. You're not really putting too many starters out there regardless. You're not putting Micah Hyde out there.
Mm-hmm.
You're not putting Tremaine Edmonds out on special teams anyways because of that high risk of injury in special teams.
It's the last 2 minutes of the game, though, Coach. He put me out, though. They're putting him out.
No, absolutely. You never put too many starters. You might put some of the lower end starters out there if you need to fill out the special teams roster. But yeah, that is a good point. I would still say, especially this year, if this isn't a following a COVID year and you have your $208 to $218 million, you definitely bring all these guys back because you like what they provide. You like the culture. They're process guys. And I think that's another big reason why McDermott likes to have those guys, because they're process guys. The guys that go out there and show the grit. They show the energy. They show the enthusiasm, even though they're not getting a lot of the glory. And there is that benefit, that insurance policy, that you're not sending out guys that you're going to rely on later on down the road after we start getting injuries. But that's a luxury. Those are luxury moves that you simply can't afford when your salary cap is cut by $20 million. You got to start getting more creative. We got to start getting guys in like Jaquan Johnson, who was a nice 5th-round pick. He was on a 5th-round rookie scale, and he came in and contributed on special teams without too much cost. He didn't cost $3.5 million. On top of that, we have guys like Cyron Neal, who contributed fairly well to defense, especially when I think Micah Hyde lost a couple games, or Jordan Poyer, one of those two. He came in, he played fairly well on defense, and they could trust him to carry some defense. I think he plays some big nickel when they use that formation. And then you have Isaiah McKenzie, largely underutilized. I think you can replace Andre Roberts, and I'll get into that a little bit more. You can replace Andre Roberts with Isaiah McKenzie, because in the very real situation where you have to choose one or the other in that wide receiver depth chart, you're going to get a lot more value out of Isaiah McKenzie than you're going to get out of Andre Roberts. Andre Roberts, they will not put out onto the field unless they absolutely have to. And in the handful of times that we've seen him out there, he's not getting open. He's not getting any separation. He just isn't a crisp route runner. He's not familiarized with being on there during offensive snaps. I think he had one decent season in like 2015, but from what we've seen him in Buffalo, he's been an awesome return man, a great return man, top 3 every year. But what he's really providing you as an exclusively return man is +5 net, +8 from the bottom. I looked up the stats. So average return yards, he is getting 8 more yards than the bottom guy. That 8 yards is not worth $2 million per year when you need to bring in more offensive linemen. You need to bring in more linebackers. You're going to need to possibly find a backup quarterback to back up Josh Allen in the very unfortunate situation that he might get hurt. We just don't have the luxury, and I keep repeating this, but it's just, you can't have the luxury to have resource allocation to people that are only going to be on the field for 10% of the game. When you can find players that can come in, high upside athletic players like Cyron Neal, Dean Marlowe, Jaquan Joseph, Isaiah McKenzie, that come in and contribute right away to special teams, and also contribute a little bit something on the actual game, the regular snaps, the first 3 downs. Because I look at this. Yeah, you're gonna, you got Boho and Batch. You have to have specialty kickers and punters. They're about. Let's see, Boho was $750,000. Hopefully, they can get him back. Bass was $610,000. So altogether, they were only $1.36 million. Not too bad. But then you have $7.141 million just dedicated to guys on the field whose contributions are replaceable. You can replace that contribution fairly easily in the NFL. You can have high energy guys, enthusiastic guys that want to come in and fight for that role, and they're going to go out there and put out energy with a great coach like Heath Farwell. So, and it's a tough one to see a guy like Andre Roberts go, who's been with us 2 years, 3 years, who's always given us those energy plays, always gets us some pretty good field position, but that field position is not worth expending money just to have him there. You can find that. Even if you don't like Isaiah McKenzie returning kicks, you can probably find somebody in the draft that can do so. Nice.
So on plays, does not hiring, in your opinion, not hiring special teams players, I don't know if there's a better way to keep referring to that, but does it change the way you play the game? Are you less intense for the purposes of trying to, save your players, or are you still having them get after it?
I think you got to go and get after it, and every player that plays at this level is going to play at that high energy because you're still having backup guys too, so you're going out there and trying to prove yourself, especially if you're trying to throw a rookie into the return man role, which if they find somebody, they can do that as well. They want to go out and show off any highlights they can to try to get that next contract. And, they're not holding back because on special teams for any reason. These guys at this level aren't holding back for any reason. The one thing I was thinking of is the culture aspect. I think that's kind of a big part of McDermott's culture thing is he likes to get in these guys. And that can really make a difference psychologically. Yeah. But that's my. I don't know. I don't know if I have much more to say about that. But you got any takes
right.
backhand?
I don't on that, but I would like to take the final swing on a dead horse that has been beaten and beaten. J.J. Watt. This is probably going to be the last time we talk about this until, unless he signs with the Bills, which I will now for sure say I don't foresee it happening. I think Buffalo is probably on the bottom of his list as far as the top 5 contenders for where he wants to go. We don't have the cap for it. We don't have the money for J.J. Watt. He's received offers in the $15-16 million per season range. With the caps, the projected cap that we have is over $180 million, which is the limit under current conditions. I just don't see J.J. Watt coming to Buffalo, and I don't know. I just hope he doesn't end up in the AFC. I guess that's my closing statement on the J.J. Watt, trade scenario. I just hope he doesn't end up in AFC East or AFC for that matter.
Yeah, last time I saw that they hit a logjam as far as number is, so I'm pretty sure Brandon Beane's going to, unless you want to take a huge pay decrease from what you can get from the Jets or the Browns or the Washington football team, you're not coming to play here. I don't think you can. I threw out I wouldn't spend more than $6 million on any defensive end to add into this rotation. J.J. Watt's definitely going to get more than that. I thought it was foolish from the get-go, but they put the feelers out, they kicked the tires, and I don't think he's coming through. Which I'm going to be the asshole today, the big buzzkill for everybody, but I don't know.
But you got to kick the tires. Got to kick the tires sometimes.
Oh, of course. Well, if a guy like J.J. Watt is out on the market, see what happens. We don't have the money to pay $10-12 million for a guy that's already started the decline on his career, though. I'm not going to be disappointed. I was nervous if he was going to come here. I've been consistent on that. I'm the buzzkill. You can cite me when everyone's sad, but I'll be happy if he's not. I don't think I'd rather see
with that being
resources
said,
allocated to Isaiah McKenzie and Matt Milano.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, Jeff, do you have any closers? Any concluding thoughts you'd like to add?
Just again, I wanted to thank at Charlie_Gross_ for engaging with this nice spirited debate with me today, as well as at Hot Bills Takes for helping to explain what I was trying to say a little bit better. And it's always nice when people get on. It's a real brotherhood on Bills Twitter, and it's always fun when people get in and actually engage with what you're putting out there. So thank you guys. I'm gonna at you guys on the Twitter box. So I hope what do you call it? The Twitter mentions, whatever. So hopefully you guys listen.
The Twitter sphere.
The Twitter sphere. Twitters.
Fred, do you have any concluding thoughts? Any closing statements you'd like to air?
I came into this as just a guy in the background who periodically says stuff that really makes no sense, but I really think I'm starting to come into my position as the guy that really doesn't know anything about what we're talking about. And it's only really uphill from here, so I just feel really good about it.
I love it, Fred. Old uninformed Fred. He's coming along.
Yeah.
You can see the energy just glowing from his brain.
I'm bubbling over with seltzer right now. It's I will say I am a little upset that you guys didn't ask me what I was drinking at the beginning of this. But
all right,
let's amend this. Come on, let's hear it.
Let's hear it. Yeah.
Well, I'm drinking the Sierra Nevada of seltzer, which is the Price Chopper brand lemon lime seltzer.
Love it.
It has natural flavors in it, as well as 0% juice. You really taste the carbonated water on the sides of your tongue, sometimes a little bit in your butthole, but just mostly on the sides of your tongue. And excellent quality, excellent distilled water. Smells,
beautiful
aromas. The can's recyclable. That's all I can say.
You can't beat a good bubbly butthole, my friend. I'm happy for you.
Well, I mean, I think it would really make sense to end it on that, just a bubbly butthole. So, thank you all for listening. If you didn't like it, then oh well. Thank you to all who contributed to this pod on Twitter. Follow on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube. The podcast is available on that platform as well as SoundCloud. You'll find the links right on our Twitter page. And if you want to contribute in the future, hit us up. Otherwise, peace out, stay safe, and let's go Bills.